They cornered her near the training yard, whispering loud enough for her to hear, pretending they were joking but their eyes full of hate. One of them kicked the dirt and said, "Look at her, bet she only got in because of some special rule." She didn't respond. She just kept tying her boots, calm, focused, almost bored. That annoyed them even more. The tallest one stepped closer and blocked the sunlight over her face. "We don't take orders from people like you, so stay out of our way." She looked up for the first time, and there was something in her eyes, steady, cold, like she already knew how this would end. Still, she didn't speak. She simply stood up, brushed off her uniform, and walked past them. But one of them grabbed her arm, hard. That was the moment everything changed. She stopped, turned her head slowly, and said in a low voice, "You really want to do this here?" Instead of backing off, the recruit smirked and tightened his grip. His buddies closed in, ready to teach her a lesson. None of them noticed the senior officer watching from the far doorway. And none of them noticed the black badge tucked under her sleeve, the one they had no idea existed. The moment he tightened his grip, she didn't yank her arm back like they expected. Instead, she looked at his hand, then at his face, and calmly said, "Last warning." Her voice was so steady it confused him. He laughed it off. "Or what? You gonna cry to command?" His friends chuckled, but the sound died halfway when she twisted her wrist, slipped out of his hold, and stepped back like it was nothing. He stared at his empty hand, shocked. She didn't gloat, didn't smirk, just watched them with that same cold calm that made them even angrier. The shortest recruit lunged forward first, trying to shove her, but she moved like she'd already seen it in slow motion. One step left, one quick tap to his shoulder, and he stumbled into his own friend. They all froze for a second, confused how she avoided them so easily without even trying. Her silence was louder than any insult they'd thrown at her. Then the senior officer who had been watching started walking closer, slow, deliberate steps. The recruits didn't notice, too blinded by their own pride. The tallest one clenched his jaw and growled, "Enough playing. She needs to learn who's in charge around here." But when she heard that, something new flickered in her eyes, not fear, something closer to amusement. She straightened her sleeves, and that hidden black badge slipped a little lower, just enough that the officer saw it, and instantly stiffened. The recruits. They were still clueless. They had no idea they were seconds away from the biggest shock of their careers. The tallest recruit charged at her like he thought brute force could fix his ego, but she shifted her weight and he missed her by inches, stumbling forward as she stepped aside. She didn't hit him. She didn't even raise her hands. She just let him embarrass himself. That made them even angrier. The others circled her again, breathing heavy, trying to trap her. One of them hissed, "Stop running and fight back." She looked him dead in the eyes and said quietly, "If I fight back, this ends your career." Before they could respond, the senior officer finally reached them. He didn't shout. He didn't step between them. He just said one sharp word. "Captain." All four recruits froze. "Captain? Who?" They slowly turned around, confused, then looked back at her. She stood still, calm as ever, but now she slid her sleeve up fully, revealing the black Special Forces crest they had mocked without seeing. Their faces went white instantly. The officer saluted her, straight-backed, voice firm. "Ma'am, do you want me to handle this?" Her answer was a quiet, "Not yet." The recruits stared at her like the ground had just opened under them. Everything they'd said, every insult, every threat, they realized it had all been aimed at the one person who could end them with a single report. But she wasn't done. She took one slow step toward them, and for the first time, they stepped back. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm was the kind that made their stomachs twist. She stopped right in front of the tallest recruit, the one who had grabbed her earlier, and said softly, "You thought I was just another trainee, didn't you?" He nodded without meaning to, his throat tight, his eyes fixed on the badge he had ignored moments ago. She leaned in a little. "You tried to attack a superior officer on a military base. Do you know what that means?" His lips trembled. Ma'am, we didn't know." She cut him off. "You didn't ask. You assumed." The officer behind her folded his arms, watching the scene unfold like he'd seen it many times before. The recruits kept backing up until their boots hit the metal fence behind them. There was nowhere left to go. One of them tried to speak. Ma'am, we're sorry. We just thought. She held up a hand, and he went silent instantly. You thought my skin color made me less. You thought you could intimidate me. You thought you were safe because you were 4 and I was 1. She took another step, and they looked like they might pass out. But you forgot something, she said, tilting her head slightly. Rank outranks numbers. Their chests sank at the same time. Then she did something they didn't expect. She turned slightly and gave the senior officer a small nod. His expression changed immediately as he pulled a folded file from under his arm. The recruits stared as he opened it, their names printed right on top. Ma'am, the officer said, should I read the charges, or would you like to tell them yourself? Her eyes locked onto the recruits again. And she whispered, let them hear it from me. She took the file from the officer's hand, flipped it open slowly, and looked at the first name without emotion. The recruits stood frozen, sweat sliding down their backs even in the cool air. She tapped the page with her finger once and said, attempted assault on a superior officer. All 4 flinched. She turned the page. Discrimination on a federal military base. Their knees almost buckled. She turned another page. Interference with classified personnel. They looked at each other, confused, shaking, unsure what classified even meant in this context. She saw the fear rising in their faces and finally lowered the file. You thought today was about you bullying someone, she said quietly. You had no idea what operation you were stepping into, what position you were messing with. One of them stammered, ma'am, please, we didn't know you were. She cut him off with a cold stare. If your respect depends on someone's rank, then you have no respect at all. The senior officer behind her cleared his throat. Ma'am, their evaluation reports will update automatically once you sign. That made their eyes widen even more. Evaluation reports meant their future, their positions, maybe even their entire careers. She looked at the trembling young men, held her silence, and then quietly closed the file. You want to learn something? She said, voice soft but sharp enough to cut. Follow me. They hesitated. She raised an eyebrow. Move. They scrambled like scared cadets, following her toward the combat hall. Every step echoed like a countdown. They didn't know if she was about to destroy their dreams, or give them one last chance. But the moment she pushed open the door to the hall, they saw something inside that made their hearts drop even further. The lights were dim. A projector was already on, and on the screen was their group, recorded earlier, insulting her, grabbing her, threatening her. They didn't know anyone had filmed it. They didn't know the entire base was about to see it. One of them actually whispered, no, this can't be real, as their own voices echoed from the speakers. Every insult, every shove, every hateful word, it played back in crisp audio, like the walls themselves were judging them. They stood there shaking, trapped between the screen and the captain's silence. She walked to the middle of the hall, her boots echoing hard on the floor. You thought no one saw you? She asked without looking at them. This base has cameras every 30 feet. You didn't just attack an officer, you did it on federal surveillance. The shortest recruit dropped his gaze, his voice trembling. Ma'am, we were stupid. We didn't mean. She turned around sharply. You meant every word. He went silent, eyes burning. Then the projector flickered again, this time showing the senior officer's livestream window, the one that connected to the command briefing room. The recruits gasped. There were people on the other side. High-rank faces. Watching. Listening. They had been monitoring since the moment she nodded. She stepped closer to the recruits. When you grabbed me, when you tried to corner me, command saw it all. And they asked me one question. She paused, letting the suspense weigh on their shoulders. They asked whether you 4 deserve a uniform. One of them choked out, please, ma'am, please don't end our careers. We'll do anything. Her eyes softened only slightly, like she was measuring something inside them. Then she said, good. Because this is your last chance. But not the way you think. They looked up, confused, desperate. She pointed toward the screen again, this time at the words on the bottom corner, live training review, entire base viewing. Their jaws dropped. Everyone saw what you did, she said quietly. And now, you're going to show them something else. Their voices cracked in unison. What, ma'am? She stepped forward, expression firm, unblinking. You're going to train with me. Today. Right now. In front of every soldier on this base. Their fear deepened. Because if you can't learn discipline from your captain, she said, her voice tightening, you don't belong in this army at all.